Big deal. I slept with our investor, she giggled, her voice syrupy and drunk on likes. That's the first thing you hear when you open the clip. Then comes the jump cut. Her sprawled on our living room couch in a cheap red robe, drink in hand, purring into the mic, relax. It's called securing the bag. The captions are in bold pink font. There's a fake voice message stitched in, a gravelly male voice moaning her name. She even throws in a few fake screenshots from Gerald's burner. It's every clickbait fantasy condensed into 46 seconds of digital poison. And it worked. 1 million views in under 2 days. Podcast numbers tripled. Comments flooded in, laughing emojis, flame icons, people calling her a marketing genius. One top comment read, "Her husband must be fun at parties." I watched her read that one out loud at breakfast, snorting. She wore my shirt. 8 eggs I made. Didn't even look up when she mumbled, "You're not mad, right? Come on, lighten up. It's comedy." She had no idea. She didn't notice the twitch in my jaw, the pause before I answered. Just kept refreshing her feed like a dopamine junkie. "They love it," she said, as if I wasn't sitting 6 feet away, hearing strangers dissect our marriage like it was a reality show. I smiled. That's all. Just smiled. Then I picked up my phone. The crazy part? I'm not even angry. That's the thing people don't get. Rage is loud, messy, impulsive. This is surgical. I watched her skip out to record her next episode. Giddy, full of herself, already planning a sequel to the affair gag. She joked she'd use a fake pregnancy test this time. "Imagine their faces," she squealed. "Yeah, imagine." She left her laptop open. She always does. I looked at her project files, dates, raw footage, bloopers folder. She never learned to lock her drive. I installed the system myself when she started the podcast. "Back then," she said, "I trust you more than Google Drive." Sweet, right? Subscribe if you're not already. Seriously. Over 90% of you listening right now aren't subscribed, and it helps the team keep pushing these out when we know you're in it with us. You've no idea how much it fuels the fire. Anyway, that clip was the match. She lit it. I'm just the wind. And here's the twist no one saw coming. Gerald, the investor she joked about, he saw it. His daughter sent it to him. She thought it was real. Thought her dad was cheating. He didn't find it funny. Not even a little. I got the call from him before Claire even hit 500K views. "Mark," he said, voice tight, "is this a joke?" "No," I replied, honest for once, "but she thinks it is." A pause. "I see." We didn't need to say more. The man has a net worth north of 70 million. His idea of damage control isn't a PR statement. It's strategy, discretion, lawyers who don't blink. While Claire doubled down with another TikTok, this time, mock crying and calling me Mr. Sensitive. I was on a quiet Zoom call with Gerald's in-house legal. They sent me a digital file I'd never seen before, an updated cap table. My name was on it. Gerald had quietly transferred full voting rights in the venture to me 2 weeks earlier. I hadn't even noticed. "Consider it a gesture of clarity," he said. "I want people to know where I stand." Claire called me twice that day. I let it ring. Her texts were variations of, "Did you see it yet?" and "You better not be mad, LOL." I wasn't mad. I was focused. There's a thing about silence people underestimate. It's not weakness. It's choice. She thought her joke stopped at views. But she didn't know the walls she shook. She didn't hear Gerald's voice go stone cold when he said, "That video could cost me clients." And she didn't see me smile again, this time at my laptop, while quietly uploading the first set of backups from her drive. Not edits. Not cuts. The raw footage. Unfiltered takes. Where she didn't just joke. She mocked. Not just Gerald, but his family. His age. His creepy rich guy energy. Said she could fake a moan for a Tesla. Even laughed about how easy it would be to gaslight me if I ever found out for real. She thought it was hilarious. And I agreed. Just on a longer timeline. She came home with takeout in one hand and ego in the other, already ranting about the idiot brand that pulled their sponsorship. She didn't even notice the smell at first. Garlic, rosemary, something real. Then she stopped mid-sentence. "Did you cook?" I stood at the stove, plating pan-seared salmon with a side of lemon asparagus. I'd opened a bottle of her favorite wine, even chilled it. The dining table had actual cloth napkins, wedding gift we never used. One candle flickered low between 2 plates. Claire blinked. "What's the occasion?" I shrugged. "Just figured we could eat like adults tonight. You've had a big week." She snorted. "What? 1 million views isn't classy enough for salmon." She laughed at her own joke. I didn't. We sat, ate, talked, mostly her. She recapped her day, the podcast analytics, The fake crying video she almost posted but thought might go too far. She teased me, lightly, casually, like she hadn't just told half the internet she was screwing the man who financed our lives. I nodded at the right beats, asked small questions, refilled her glass. When dessert came out, a slice of that hazelnut cake she hoards from that overpriced French place, I raised my glass. To clarity. She clinked mine with hers, cocking her head. What's that mean? I smiled. It means everything will be a lot simpler soon. She made a face like she didn't get it, then brushed it off. You're being weird, you know that? I kissed her forehead. I'm just tired. That part wasn't a lie. I told her I had work to do, headed into the guest room. She curled up on the couch to re-watch her affair video with new filters. Her laugh echoed down the hallway, still high on her own performance. She had no clue, and I didn't feel guilty. Not anymore. Because she wasn't just mocking me. She was burning down her own house and calling it performance art. I didn't pack much. A carry-on with essentials. The hard drive with her raw files. A black envelope from Gerald's lawyer. My passport. The lease to the other condo. The one I never told her I renewed last year. I slipped it all into the bag, zipped it quietly. At 1:14 a.m., I walked past her sleeping form on the couch. She was holding her phone like a teddy bear. On the screen, paused, was her face mid-fake sob, captioned, "My husband can't take a joke." I stood there for maybe 10 seconds. Watched her breathe. Then I walked out the front door and didn't look back. By morning, she woke up to an empty house. No coffee made. No shoes by the door. No toothbrush in the cup. The guest bed, untouched. My phone off. My social media, scrubbed. She texted once. "Did you go for a walk or something?" LOL. Then again, an hour later. "Okay, seriously, where TF are you?" I didn't reply. By 10 a.m., she was calling. Then DMing. Then tagging me on her stories like we were a brand. "Mark's gone MIA. Probably sulking. Somebody send him a meme." She added a crying laugh emoji. Her followers thought it was hilarious. But I wasn't sulking. I was watching, quietly, from somewhere she'd never find me. And she still didn't understand what the dinner meant. It wasn't an olive branch. It was a farewell. A peaceful, silent, final meal. A courtesy, before the fire. It started with a "we regret to inform you," buried in an otherwise cheerful email from Aloe Shine, a wellness brand Claire had been working with for 6 months. She thought it was a routine campaign update. Maybe new talking points. Maybe a request for spring detox content. Instead, they were pausing collaboration due to concerns raised by recent social media content. She actually laughed when she read it. "Seriously? They think I actually banged Gerald?" she muttered, scrolling through the thread. "People are so dense." She texted her manager, who replied with a single screenshot. One of Claire's viewers reposting the video with a long comment thread debating whether the affair was real. The top reply? "Even if it's fake, it's disgusting. Her husband looks like a clown." Claire rolled her eyes and closed the thread. "Whatever," she said, tossing her phone aside. "Haters mean I'm winning." She filmed a reaction clip, her lounging in bed, fake tears running, sarcastically whispering, "I lost a sponsor for being too hot and funny." She slapped on an ironic filter and posted it to Reels and TikTok with the caption, "Guess I'm a liability now." It got 200K views in 2 hours. She did a little twirl in the kitchen. "They can't cancel charisma, baby." Then came the second email. This time from Clean Bar, a brand that had flown her to LA for a wellness summit last fall. The language was colder. Legal reviewed. They weren't pausing. They were terminating. Due to misalignment in values and recent public concerns surrounding your media content, Clean Bar is terminating all partnerships effective immediately. You are advised to remove any affiliate links and promotional codes within 24 hours to avoid legal action. She stared at the screen. No emojis this time. No soft sign-off. Just that looming phrase, misalignment in values. Her phone buzzed again. Third email. This time from a skincare line in Portland, one she hadn't even posted about yet. They were pulling out preemptively. That's when the spiral started. She called Mark. Voicemail. "Okay, wow. So you're just ghosting me now." She didn't even leave a message. Just hung up and muttered, "Grow up." Then she posted a story of herself sipping wine and sunglasses, captioned, "Husband sulking. Brand's tripping. I'm thriving." But she wasn't. Not really. She kept refreshing her inbox, rereading the words "contract suspended" and "concerns raised." Then she opened Twitter. The top trending hashtag under her name wasn't flattering. Hashtag divorce investor was climbing fast. One clip had been reposted by a political account that specialized in moral rot and influencer culture. They framed it as proof of crumbling family values. Another niche creator stitched her video, calling it the most self-inflicted PR suicide of 2025. Claire tried to reply under a burner account, defending herself. Got flagged for spam. She tried to tag Mark in a follow-up post, saying, "He's just hiding until this blows over LOL." Nothing. No repost. No snarky response. Not even a read receipt. Just dead air. She'd met him. "Okay, can you stop being dramatic now?" Still no answer. She checked their shared calendar. He'd wiped it clean. She checked the Nest camera history. His last entry was 3 days ago. She checked his LinkedIn. Updated 1 day ago. The location, private. The headline, independent advisor. Claire began pacing. Then stopped. Then opened her podcast analytics. A drop. Not huge, but real. Audience retention was down 14%. Engagement was tanking. The last episode's comments were filled with people saying they missed her early vibe, or used to be a fan until she made a joke out of her marriage. And one comment, sitting at the top with 2.1K likes. Didn't her husband literally build this podcast setup for her? She stared at it for a long time, then clicked on the profile. A faceless account. No posts. But the username? m.l_clarity. She felt her stomach tighten. She told herself it was a coincidence. She told herself she was still in control. She opened her front camera, smiled tight, and hit record. But this time, she needed 2 takes. And the smile didn't reach her eyes. It dropped at 8:12 a.m. on a Thursday. An unassuming LinkedIn post from Gerald Miles, posted without tags, without hashtags, without flair. Just a square-cropped video and the caption. For clarity, Claire was still in bed, scrolling through her mentions, trying to find any comment that didn't accuse her of hating marriage or mocking loyalty. Her phone pinged with a message from one of her podcast guests. You should watch what Gerald just posted. Not sure if it's a joke." Claire blinked, clicked the link, sat up. The video autoplayed, framed in Gerald's sterile office. Same neutral art. Same ridiculous glass sculpture behind him. But his expression was not neutral. It was the kind of cold only the wealthy can afford to wear in public. "My name is Gerald Miles. I am a private investor and majority stakeholder in several ventures, including media development projects with the Levinson family. Recent social media content has suggested I was engaged in a romantic relationship with Claire Levinson." He paused, not for drama, but to let the silence grow roots. "This is categorically false. I've never engaged in any romantic or inappropriate relationship with Claire. Any suggestion otherwise is defamatory and has resulted in material harm to my reputation and to my family." Claire's hand started shaking. She turned the volume down like that would soften the blow. It didn't. Gerald continued, voice steady. "I understand the importance of humor in media. I also understand the legal distinction between parody and defamation. As of today, I have ceded all voting rights in our joint ventures to Mr. Mark Levinson. He is, and has always been, the sole professional party I trust in these matters." End of video. No fade out. No music. No room for denial. Claire froze. The screen returned to LinkedIn's familiar interface. 3.2K likes. 700 comments. Half of them were from venture capitalists, executives, journalists, real people in suits, not trolls with anime avatars. One comment stood out, already pinned by Gerald himself. "I've known Gerald 14 years. He doesn't make public statements unless it's surgical. Y'all really pissed off the wrong adult." Claire's phone buzzed again. This time it was her podcast platform support rep. "Hey Claire, we got a formal notice from Miles and Partners requesting takedown of all content featuring his name or likeness. Can we hop on a call?" She didn't reply. She just refreshed Gerald's video again. She watched his face. Not angry, not vengeful, just done, like she was a closed chapter. She texted Mark. "Did you ask him to do this?" No answer. She called, straight to voicemail. The panic that had been idling at the edge of her chest finally hit the gas. Her mouth went dry. She Googled defamation investor joke and was immediately greeted by law firm blogs titled things like "Why Satire Isn't Always a Legal Shield" and "When Influencers Go Too Far, a Case Study." She shut her laptop, stood up too fast, nearly knocked over her ring light. Outside the window, a neighbor walked by with a stroller. She caught Claire's eye, didn't smile. Claire realized she hadn't brushed her hair, or changed clothes, or moved much in days. And now Gerald, the Gerald, was publicly aligning with her husband, using words like trust and harm, and Mark Levinson has always been. Always been what? Always been preparing? She opened her own podcast app, tried to record a response, froze, deleted it, tried again, paused, because no matter how she phrased it, it all started to sound like she really had slept with him and was now scrambling to clean it up. But that wasn't the part that scared her the most. What scared her was the fact that Mark hadn't said a word. He hadn't gloated, hadn't posted, hadn't even liked Gerald's video. Silence. Clean, surgical silence. And somehow, that was worse than anything she could have imagined. She was mid-rant on a live stream. Something about cancel culture not understanding satire, when the doorbell rang. I swear, she told the camera. It's like the world forgot what irony even is. If you don't get the joke, you are the joke. More hearts. More laughing emojis. A wave of, Yas Queen. Comments rolled in as she walked to the front door, phone in one hand, ego in the other. Then she opened it. Claire Levinson, a voice asked. A man in a black windbreaker handed her a thick envelope and walked away without a word. No clipboard. No signature. Just delivery and exit. She shut the door slowly, suddenly aware of how loud her own voice had been echoing through the apartment. Back at the table, she opened the packet. Dozens of pages, each stamped, notarized, labeled, Amendment to Joint Holdings Agreement. At first, she didn't understand. The language was cold, but clear. The condo? Transferred. The podcast's revenue shares? Reassigned. The equity in the development firm she and Mark launched last year? Stripped. Backdated. Rewritten. Every clause ended with the same line. All assets now held solely in the name of Mark Levinson. She flipped through the pages, frantic, hands slick. There was her signature, at the bottom of a filing dated 5 months ago, and Gerald's signature beside it. She checked again. Not forged. Not photoshopped. Real. Stamped. Witnessed. Filed with the state. At the bottom of one page was a name she hadn't thought about in weeks. Patterson and Miles, LLP. Gerald's legal team. She called his number immediately. Straight to voicemail. Tried again. Voicemail. So she called from a different line, her assistant's old work phone. This time, someone picked up. Office of Mr. Miles. Hi, this is Claire. Hold please. Silence. Then, Mr. Miles is unavailable. Can I leave a message? It's urgent. Message received. Click. She stood there, phone still to her ear like maybe it would come back to life. It didn't. Her breathing turned shallow. She stumbled back to the dining table, scattered the papers like maybe rearranging them would change their meaning. They were real. Not copies. Not threats. Final. She opened her laptop, logged into their shared legal portal, the same one they used when setting up their joint ventures. There it was. A folder titled Reallocation, Consented, M. Levinson. Created 3 months ago. She clicked through. Inside, signed PDFs, audit trails, email confirmations. She opened one and saw the kicker, a scan of her own reply. Thanks, Mark. Looks fine. Just send for signing. She remembered that day. Barely. He brought her coffee. Said they needed to reclassify some holdings for tax clarity. She was half watching a makeup tutorial. Barely glanced at the document. She signed on her phone while joking about exfoliants. She hadn't read the attachments. Now she understood why Gerald had gone so quiet. Why he hadn't sued her. Or gone public again. Because he didn't need to. He'd already signed the transfer documents. Acknowledged the shift. Relinquished his influence before the joke ever aired. This wasn't retaliation. This was orchestration. She opened her email, typed furiously to her lawyer. Urgent. Possible fraudulent asset shift. I need to dispute recent filings. She clicked send, then watched it sit. And sit. No auto-reply. No call. No text. She refreshed the inbox 5 times. Nothing. She opened his website. 404 error. She Googled his name. Found a new listing. Now accepting clients in Chicago office only. New contact information by referral only. Referral only? Her phone buzzed. She lunged for it. Just a notification. M.L_clarity has posted a new video. She stared at the name and whispered, no, because the panic wasn't about what was lost. It was about realizing how long ago it had been taken. No splashy thumbnail. No viral hashtags. No clickbait title. Just a plain, grayscale website with one line in modest serif font. When humor fails, a personal statement by M. Levinson. Claire didn't find it herself. Someone tagged her in a Reddit thread titled, Is this the husband? At first she thought it was a meme, another over-edited TikTok poking fun at the joke gone wrong. But then she clicked the link. Vimeo embed. No like button. No comment section. Just a black screen, a quiet loading bar, and a 6-minute timestamp. The video opened with Mark, seated in what looked like a hotel room. Clean, impersonal, corporate. A lamp behind him cast soft shadows on the beige wall. He wasn't dressed for pity. No hoodie, no disheveled hair. Just a crisp navy shirt, no tie. Calm eyes. A voice like sanded wood. My name is Mark Levinson. Some of you may know me as the husband of Claire Levinson, a media personality and podcast host. Pause. Not for emotion, just to let the words breathe. Recently, my wife posted a series of videos implying she had a sexual relationship with Gerald Miles, an investor I've worked with for nearly a decade. While many understood this to be a joke, the implications were real. For me, for Gerald, for his family, for our business. Claire's mouth went dry. He leaned forward slightly, hands folded, posture deliberate. I don't usually speak publicly, but I need to set the record straight. The video cut, clean, no fade, to footage Claire immediately recognized. Her studio, mid-recording, unreleased footage. She was in her robe again. Same one from that video. The camera was rolling while she joked with her producer. If Gerald were 20 years younger, or 50 million poorer, this would have never worked, right? But hey, investors love a little desperation kink. Laughter in the background. Hers. Someone else's. The next cut, her mocking Gerald's family, imitating his wife's voice, calling their kids legacy leeches. Then a joke about sleeping your way to the cap table. She gasped. Actually gasped. She cut those takes. They were never meant to be published. But there they were. No filters. No edits. Just her, raw, cruel, and grinning. The video cut back to Mark. These clips are unedited. They were recorded during sessions I helped set up. I was the one who built her production system. I archived her footage. She knew that. He glanced off camera, then back. She didn't forget. She just thought I wouldn't use it. Claire's heart was pounding. She fumbled for the pause button, but didn't press it. He kept talking. This isn't about revenge. I'm not asking for sympathy. I just want the people who built platforms for her to see what was behind the laugh track. He opened a folder, held up a printed image, her contract with Clean Bar. Circled in red was the morality clause. Then another document, her podcast licensing agreement. It bore her signature. Clause 4B. Public statements or behavior that result in material reputational harm may result in immediate reassignment of content ownership. Mark laid the papers down, looked directly into the camera. She joked about violating trust, then acted shocked when trust responded. No anger in his voice, just precision. He didn't look tired. He looked finished. The screen faded to black. No credits. No outro. Just one final sentence in white text. This video will remain up for public record until full rights are returned. Claire stared at the screen, fingers frozen above the keyboard. She checked the page source, tried to see where it was hosted. Private server. Anonymous domain registrar. No names. No contact info. It was bulletproof. Untraceable. Unforgettable. She opened her email. 200 new messages. Subject lines like, statement. Is this true? Sponsors dropping you too? You're finished if you don't fix this. One from her old producer. I told you he wasn't the type to yell. He's the type to plan. Claire closed the laptop, pulled her knees to her chest, and for the first time, wished it had been a joke, because now it was evidence. The first call came from her brother. She almost didn't pick up. She was knee-deep in a defensive Instagram story she'd filmed 5 times already, trying to find the right balance between indignation and victimhood. But when she saw Dan, work cell, flashing on her screen, she exhaled sharply and answered. What? She snapped. What the hell did you do, Claire? His voice wasn't concerned. It was pissed. Corporate pissed. The kind of tone you get when HR's listening on the other end of the call. Excuse me. You think I can just walk into a meeting with my last name trending like that? Jesus, Claire, Gerald's son is on our board. She blinked. Wait, what? Yeah, Carter Miles. You'd know that if you ever paid attention at Thanksgiving instead of live tweeting your life like a damn sitcom. Are you seriously mad at me because you didn't disclose? I'm mad, he cut in. Because your little joke turned into a 6-figure PR cleanup for my team. She froze. 6 figures? You think this stuff exists in a vacuum? People don't care about your intention. They care about their reputation. Dan, it was satire. That's literally. You're not a comedian, Claire. You're a liability. Click. She stood there holding the phone long after he hung up, like it might apologize for him. Then her voicemail pinged. Her father. Claire. Is this what you do now? Humiliate yourself for clicks? You always needed attention. But this is something else. I'm not even mad. I'm just tired. The message ended with static, like even his phone didn't want to finish it. She tried to shake it off. Opened Instagram. Big mistake. Her cousin, her closest cousin, had unfollowed her podcast's account. Publicly. Not quietly, not subtly. Claire saw the notification. Then she saw the comment. I can't defend this anymore. She's gone too far. And beneath it, dozens of likes. Not trolls. Family friends. College friends. High school teachers. People who used to repost her episodes with heart emojis. Now radio silent. Or worse, vocal. Claire scrolled faster. Another comment on a reposted clip. Remember when she used to talk about healing and communication? Another. Guess betrayal's a branding strategy now. She started shaking. She opened her texts. Her mother, at least, would defend her. There was a message. It had come in hours ago. From Mom. Claire, you need help. Not followers. I love you. But I can't keep pretending this is healthy. No emojis. No LOL. Just that. Claire dropped the phone onto the couch and walked to the kitchen. Poured a glass of wine with a hand that wouldn't stop trembling. She hadn't eaten since yesterday. Her mouth tasted like metal. She tried to rationalize it. They're overreacting. They don't get satire. They're just triggered. Or embarrassed. Or jealous. But it didn't land. Not even with her. Because the truth was, it wasn't about the joke anymore. It was about the video. Mark's video. The footage. The clips. The contract screenshots. And worse, the silence. The damning, unrelenting silence from the one person who had always been her last defense. Mark didn't yell. Didn't lash out. Didn't beg for an apology. He just told the truth. Quietly. Surgically. And now, her family believed him. They didn't call her a liar. They didn't need to. They just stopped calling it all. Even the ones who said they'd always have her back were gone now, slipping out of frame like bad background actors in a show that lost its audience. She sat at the kitchen counter, scrolling through the last messages from people she used to matter to. And for the first time, the influencer felt invisible. She couldn't sleep. Not in the bed, not on the couch, not even upright in the corner of the kitchen with a blanket wrapped around her like some ruined debutante in a wine-stained hoodie. So she did what people like her do when they're spiraling and still need to feel like they're in control. She rewatched the video. Mark's video. Again. The Vimeo link had been sent to her in every possible way. DM, email, Twitter tag, Reddit thread. But she always came back to the same version. The one on the quiet website. No comments, no clutter, no feedback loop to dilute the impact. She clicked play. This time, she didn't listen to his words. She watched the timeline. The tiny lower corner of each clip. The file names. The timestamps. 2024_06_28_take4_ couch raw. 2023_11_13_uncut_sketchlaugh3. 2023_09_02_ promo blooper_ final. Each one dating back months. Even a year. She'd forgotten about those sessions. But he hadn't. And he didn't just have them. He organized them. Labeled. Cataloged. Curated. This wasn't Mark grabbing revenge clips off her cloud in a heat of anger. This was Mark quietly collecting receipts while she called herself a content queen. Her blood ran cold. She opened her laptop. Searched through her footage folders. Empty. No raw takes. No blooper vault. No old drafts. No labeled cuts. Just final edited reels. And her Dropbox? Useless. The archive folder she thought was synced hadn't updated in over 10 months. Then she remembered. He had offered to set up a RAID storage system for her when her Mac kept overheating during edits. Let me help you build something future-proof, he'd said. A clean setup. No risk of losing the raw stuff. He even gave her a login. She hadn't touched it since. She hated logging into anything that wasn't automatic. She opened the app. Tried the password. Failed. Tried again. Failed. Reset. Disabled. Then she really looked at the old project dashboard. User access. Admin. M. Levinson. Last login. 2 days ago. Last export. 3 files. Rendered.mp4 format. External push to private server. Her throat clenched. He didn't just have the footage. He owned the pipeline. He'd built her foundation, and she'd handed him the keys while she bragged on air about being a self-made woman. She whispered, "Oh my God," because this wasn't about a joke gone wrong. It wasn't backlash. It was infrastructure. And the worst part? She'd mocked him, over and over, for being too into process, for naming files like a librarian, for tagging her takes like some data-obsessed engineer. She used to tease him. "Why do you treat my podcast like NASA telemetry?" she'd asked once. He just smiled and said, "Because one day you'll crash." And here it was. Impact. She scrolled through the footage Mark had used. Not one was recorded after she went viral. He had pulled each one from the quiet shadows of her hard drive, the things she thought no one would ever see. Not because they were private, but because they were unfinished. Forgotten, but not to him. He'd watched it all. Every take, every offhand insult, every bit of shade she threw at Gerald, his wife, even Mark himself. She opened an old group chat from early in her podcast days. The first person to encourage her to launch was Mark. "You have a voice," he'd written. "You just need the right vault to protect it." Back then she thought vault was some poetic support metaphor. It wasn't. It was literal. He'd built her a vault. Now he was using it, not just to burn her reputation, but to prove he never touched a match. She was still reeling from the realization when the second video dropped. No fanfare, no warning, just a new link, quietly embedded on the same site as the first, timestamped that morning. Title: Clarifications and Terms. Runtime: for minutes, 19 seconds. Claire was still in pajama pants, hadn't washed her hair in 2 days. Her phone was buzzing again. Not with praise, not with sympathy, just links, more links, forwarded by people who didn't even bother with a message anymore. Just, "You saw this yet?" "Bro, skull." She clicked. There was Mark again. Same setting, same eerie calm. "I didn't expect to need a second statement," he began. "But after receiving multiple requests from platforms, sponsors, and legal contacts, I feel it's necessary to present some clarification." He didn't raise his voice. He didn't smirk. He didn't gloat. He just read. "In 2023, Claire and I formalized our joint intellectual property structure. This included podcast assets, licensing, branding rights, and monetization channels. As part of that structure, we signed a clause, Clause 7.2, which states that in the event either party engages in public behavior that causes measurable reputational harm to the shared brand, ownership of the affected media assets may be legally transferred to the other party." The screen faded to a scan of a document. Clean. Official. Labeled, IP Ownership Clause, Levinson Media. Claire squinted. There it was. Her signature. Next to his. Date: July 17th, 2024. 14 months ago. He continued, voice steady. "This clause was reviewed by our shared counsel. A copy was sent to Claire's email and initialed digitally. At the time, she confirmed approval with the following message." The screen cut to a screenshot of her email. Subject: Re. "Doc looks fine LOL. Body: all good babe. Just don't make me read another 30-page PDF today, face with tears of joy." The emoji still stung. Mark reappeared on screen. "Based on recent events, including public videos and follow-up content, Council has confirmed that the clause has been triggered. As such, full rights to the Voice First podcast, including its name, branding elements, mailing list, and monetized archives, have been legally reassigned to me, effective immediately." Claire's jaw unhinged. She grabbed her laptop, frantically logging into her creator dashboard. Access denied. She tried again. Error. She opened her podcast's MailChimp account. Frozen. A notification slid into the top of her screen. Admin privileges reassigned. She clicked Contact Support. The page looped. She tried to post a new episode. Upload failed. She screamed at the screen. "You have got to be kidding me." She flipped open her inbox. New email. Subject: Asset Transfer Notification, Levinson Media, Final. Inside. Legalese confirming the reallocation of her intellectual property, signed and finalized by her own attorney, a man who had apparently joined a private firm in Colorado last week and was now, conveniently, unreachable. Claire's heart slammed against her ribcage like it was trying to evacuate. She picked up the phone, called one of her old collaborators. "Hey, it's Claire. Can you still access the Dropbox folder for Voice First? I think something glitched." A long pause. Then, "I'm under NDA now, Claire. Mark's team sent a whole packet. I can't talk to you about anything VF related anymore. Sorry." Click. She slumped to the floor. Not the couch. Not the bed. The floor. Because this wasn't just about Mark exposing her. This wasn't just about Gerald. It wasn't even about the prank. It was ownership. She'd let Mark build the bones of her empire because he didn't crave the spotlight. Because he preferred the back end. Because he believed in her brand. What he believed in was documentation. He didn't rage. He wrote clauses. He didn't clap back. He filed structures. And while she was too busy crafting punchlines and crop tops for Instagram reels, he was crafting escape hatches. Not in case she failed, but in case she betrayed. And now the show was his. The name? His. The platform? His. Even the tagline, "Your inner voice, amplified," was registered under M, Levinson Holdings. Her inner voice had been evicted. She curled into herself, as if smaller meant safer. But there was no shelter now, only silence, and the sound of her empire being hosted on someone else's server. She didn't knock like someone who expected to be welcomed. She knocked like someone trying to wake the dead. Fist pounding, fingernails scratching the wood like it might change the outcome. Voice cracking with desperation that was too late and too loud. Mark, please, please just open the door. I'm begging you. He lived in one of those modern lofts now. Steel and stone, no curtains, no doorbell chime. Just the hollow echo of fists against choices. Claire's eyeliner had melted halfway down her face. Her coat was on inside out. She didn't even notice. She shouted again, this time quieter. Horse, please delete it. Delete everything. I'll go live, I'll apologize, I'll do whatever. Just take it down. I didn't mean it. It was just a joke. Just a joke. The door opened. Slowly. Mark stood there. Hair damp from a shower. T-shirt plain. Calm, not smug. Not angry. Just finished. She froze. Then rushed forward like she might collapse at his feet. I can't breathe, Mark. They're tearing me apart. Sponsors, family, my mother, Mark. She told me to get help. Please, this isn't me, He raised a hand. Not in warning. In permission. As if he were giving her 10 more seconds to make a final choice. She used them to sob. He let her. Then he said, I know. She blinked. What? I know it was a joke. Her lips parted, ready to plead again, but he continued. You said it was a joke when you posted it. You said it was a joke when the brand pulled out. You said it was a joke when you mocked a man who trusted me, when you dragged my name through algorithms for engagement, when you thought shame had no receipt. Mark, I didn't. You did. But I don't care anymore. Her mouth worked, but her voice didn't follow. He looked over her shoulder, as if checking for neighbors. Then he looked back at her and said, calmly, cleanly, completely, your apology should match the stage you mocked me on. The words hit harder than a slammed door. But he didn't slam it. He just closed it. Soft. Quiet. Final. She stood there for a beat. Then two. The hallway buzzed with silence. And just before the latch clicked shut, she caught a glimpse behind him. A faint white glow. A ring light. On. Facing the couch. Next to it, a camera. Already recording. She stepped back, dazed, stumbling down the hall with mascara in her mouth and a sinking in her chest that had no bottom. And somewhere behind that door, the man she had turned into a punchline was preparing his next video. Not with anger. Not with vengeance. But with production value. Because Claire had made him content once. Now it was his turn.